potential. Potential. To start off with a bit of humor, as if we really needed any humor, I thought this was a great cartoon. Sorry, but I'm not giving you the stable for the night. That would destroy your incentive to better yourselves. Wow, I thought that was a really contemporary. So Advent is a time of waiting. It's a time of waiting for something. Generally, it's a time of waiting for Christmas that begins well before Halloween. For some, in some traditions, it's waiting for the second coming of Christ, if you believe that Christ will come again. But Advent waiting is not sitting silently with folded hands while God magically establishes some sort of perfect realm of justice until God defeats all of your perceived enemies and gives you what you've been patiently praying for. Advent waiting is active waiting. In the season of Advent, we join God in the movement. In Advent, we live as if the kingdom of God, the realm of God, is already here. In Advent, we live as if the gift has already come. And we are now living in a world of justice and equity and peace and universal love. Now, for me, this is an incredible challenge. I am a hurry up and wait kind of guy. In my attention deficit world, I can be so impatient and I can miss the joy of slowing down and listening to the still, small voice, or simply being present. I often need to be reminded to stop and smell the cactus, which can be dangerous, I found out. And that is one of the many, many lessons I've learned from Jackson, who for some reason thinks the last two Sundays he needs to be with us in the sanctuary in our 6 years together. What I've learned from Jackson is stop, slow down, James. There is a smell right there that I need to capture. And I am going to stay there until I've got that smell. And then I respond, Jackson, we are on a walk. We are on a walk. Our purpose is to walk briskly so that we can get some good exercise and raise our heartbeat. And he says, let's stop and be present. Henry Nouwen has helped me understand this Advent concept of active waiting with these words. He says, we must wait with a sense of promise. Nouwen says, because we have already seen the footsteps of God, we have tasted God's goodness, and we want more, or we want to want more. Advent reminds us that we have already seen the footsteps of God in the world. There have been many sages and many teachers and many rabbis and many wise people who have come and gone who have been filled with the presence of God. And then at that one moment in history, what we celebrate in our tradition is the coming of that special star child. That star child that shows us our true God-given potential. Jesus was fully human. He lived in a world much like our own, without many of the modern conveniences, fortunately, of technology. But Jesus showed how to live a true, authentic life. Jesus showed us how to live our true selves, to live fully human, but to also live fully divine. So we wait confidently, hopefully, preparing ourselves by slowing down, by clearing our minds, by smelling the cacti, and making room for the star child. This kind of active waiting calls us to have confidence that what is going to happen is going to change and transform our world and our lives, and that we are eager to be a part of that transition, that transformation, and that change. You see, the star child came into the world very much like Isaiah came into his world as a prophet in the familiar Advent reading. I know all of you have probably heard the words at the beginning of Isaiah that we read twice, and those words are, "Comfort, comfort ye, my people." We hear it from Handel's Messiah in that crystal clear tenor voice. We hear it in our own voices right now, from our own lips, because we're all looking for some sort of comfort in the midst of the confusion. We're looking for consolation. We're looking for peace, for some way to make rhyme or reason out of our current world and our global circumstances. I don't know how many of you have been listening to the global challenges right now, but France, right? And all of the challenges globally around immigration and immigrants and who's in and who's out, and all of the fear it seems that so many of us on the globe are experiencing. But we need to be reminded that God has put his footprints in our world and on our world. And the star child calls us back to our God-given potential. Every child comes with the message that God is not yet discouraged of humanity. I wanted to put a picture of Tagore up there so you knew who this sage was. Isaiah has a bold declaration about the character of God that is offered to people that need a lot of comfort, that are demoralized. A people looking for comfort just like us, just like the people in Jesus' day, and just like the people in Isaiah's day. Everybody is looking for a star child, for somebody to take the helm and make a difference and set things right. In Isaiah, Yahweh, the God of Israel, assembles, we are told, a heavenly host. And this is not an assembly of bickering and blame-making Congress or senators, arguing, it seems, blindly from their own selfish perspective, but this is a council of God's servants who see the world through the eyes of justice and equity and compassion and mercy and what is best for all, not just for the chosen few. And in Isaiah's day, as in Jesus' day and our day, God's children, humanity, is being oppressed. Oppression seems to be the theme of the day and really the theme many times of humanity. The people in Isaiah's day, they were under the thumb of the Babylonian Empire. And they had to worship the Babylonian god called Marduk. This is Marduk. I'm not sure if that's a worshipful image or not, but that was the god of the Babylonian Empire at the time of Isaiah. And God's people had been stripped of their dignity. Injustice was running amok, and the most vulnerable in their culture and their society were being ignored. And their temple, their place of worship, had been destroyed. And now they were called to worship this false Babylonian god called Marduk. They had been stripped of everything that had become an obstruction in their relationship to God. Let me say that again. And note, they had been stripped of everything that had become an obstruction in their relationship to God. Isaiah the prophet says they'd already were worshiping other gods. They were already exploiting the poor. They were already doing unjust things, and they already, as a people, had false alliances. And these are the people of Israel that Isaiah was talking to. They had become oppressive and nationalistic. This is kind of a message to a country and to a group of people. They had gotten themselves into this situation, and God was always willing to get them out of these situations. So they were down to nothing, reduced to only their relationship with God. Perhaps, though, we value our political parties more than we do God. Maybe we would rather sing "God Bless America" than we'd like to sing "God has the whole world in his hands." Perhaps we'd prefer more precise observances of church rituals over the diligent pursuit of justice on behalf of the poor and the oppressed. Or perhaps we want our own kind of comfort actually before we comfort others. In other words, comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, and then I will give comfort to others. But you know, God is always willing to work with us to get us out of our man or woman-made or human-made challenges and situation, and sends us what? Sends us a star child. That is the story of our human history. Or star children, as Tagore would say, to reveal to us once again our God-given potential. God earnestly desires to comfort. God earnestly desires to bring us healing. God earnestly desires to liberate all of us who feel that we're in the depths of despair and desolation. But the message is that it is not God's work alone, but it takes active waiting. Active waiting. Change and movement and justice and mercy and love. And a change in humanity takes us and God working together to envision a new world in a partnership. Isaiah says there is a new world coming. Now, he was a prophet many, many years ago. Jesus said there was a new world coming. Many of us today are saying there's a new world coming. And we are to be active with God in building that new way and that new world. And Isaiah says, a highway in the desert. That it is our work to build that highway in the desert in partnership with God. These are the words from Isaiah that are incredibly powerful. Prepare for God's arrival. Make the road straight and smooth, a highway fit for our God. Fill in the valleys, level off the hills, smooth out the ruts, and clear out the rocks. It doesn't sound like something I could probably do on my own. In fact, I'm having a difficult time moving rock around in my front yard, thinking, oh my goodness, I want desertscape, but I got to move the rock just in my front yard. But that is God's work and our work together. It's the ultimate outcome of co-working with God in active waiting. In active waiting. And for me, that's the closer. That's the clincher. Isaiah says, so when you flatten the hills and you raise up the valleys and you create this desert highway, then God's bright glory will shine and everybody will see it. Star child, Isaiah, calls all of us to be co-creators with the divine. Marianne Williamson said this the best that she possibly, I think better than anybody has outside of Isaiah, of course, but I've used it a lot, but I really want to get it into your minds and hearts. Marianne Williamson says this, we are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. We had a strangely profound discussion at our Thursday morning class when Arnie Koriath, I have to bring you up again this week, Arnie, when Arnie Koriath put this exact statement, almost those exact words into the room, confirming these words of Marianne Williamson, telling us that all of us have the light and the glory and the kingdom and the realm of God within us already. It's not just for some chosen, but it's for everyone. And it's living into the full potential of those words and the glory and the light of God within. We are all star children. You are a star child. I'm a star child. We are all star children. I wish we could sing a song like that. We are all star children, and we all have unlimited potential. And the challenge of the Christian journey, or the journey with the Spirit, is to determine what is that potential that I have. We lit our candle of potential this week. It's not your traditional love, joy, peace, and hope candle. And I ask you then, what is your potential? As Susan asks us to sit with those words. What is your God-given potential? It doesn't matter how young, how old you are. We all have the light and the Spirit within. How, in the words of Isaiah, does God's glory shine through you? How are you living into your star childness? I don't know if that's a word or a phrase, but it's something I'd like to stick with you over the next week. How are you living into your star childness? Yvonne and Gil and Fernie and I had an opportunity Tuesday evening to hear a story about human potential and divine potential, a modern-day Isaiah story, a modern-day star child story. The story was shared here at this particular restaurant, an El Salvadorian restaurant. Anybody been there? Okay, it's amazing. I know. We ate there. They brought us great, awesome food. Located at 73rd Avenue and Thomas Road. The owner of the restaurant and her daughter gave us a check for $1,050. There was the check. Now, you'd kind of think a restaurant giving a church a check, what's that about? But let me share a little bit of the story. They asked us to use this in our ministry to those staying with us from Central America, from El Salvador, Guatemala, people that are seeking asylum and a home in our state, in our states. And this is a picture of Gil and Fernie, Yvonne, and me, and our storytellers, Yesenia and Miriam. And Yesenia, as Miriam's mother, was born in El Salvador and suffered many, many moments of violence and oppression. And her family decided they needed to come to the States. Yesenia came first, crossing our southern border about 25 years ago. Her husband came 2 months later. Miriam and her brother 2 years later, with nothing more than, you guessed it, the clothes on their back. They were looking for a better life for their 2 children and now 3 children. And to support themselves, Yesenia and her husband sold Shaklee products and then started their first restaurant. Now they have 4 with 1 more on the way. It took years for them to become citizens. And they talked about how they felt like they were living in the shadows. But they saw their potential. They saw the potential. And they lived up to what I saw in them was their God-given potential based on their faith in God and God at work through them. I was so moved by their testimony. And I know all of us were. And for a moment, I realized that we were among star children as the daughter helped to share the story and relished in the story of her brave parents who knew their potential and now have given their gift of potential to their children. And now they're giving back to us. That is a story of the beauty of potential. Divine given potential. And that potential is honestly in all of us. It truly is. And as I listened to their story, knowing I was going to share a message focused on divine and human potential, I also remember this amazing quote that we already had in the bulletin from Harriet Tubman. And it's this. And I thought of this family. And I thought of every person at the border. And honestly, I thought of all of you in the pews that are on this journey, this movement together. Harriet Tubman said, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion, and the potential to reach for the stars to change the world. Talk about a woman who changed the world. A woman with a dream, an American abolitionist, political activist, born into slavery in 1913. She escaped slavery and she rescued many, approximately 170 enslaved people, family and friends, using the network of anti-slavery activists known as safe houses and the Underground Railroad. Talk about potential. But you can say to me, and I can say to myself, but I'm not Harriet Tubman. I'm not Maria. I'm no MLK. I'm no Gandhi. I'm no Rosa Parks. I'm no Cesar Chavez's. But each of us can do our part as we listen and embrace the words of Isaiah. We can manifest the glory of God, and it will shine, and everyone will see it. So I ask you again, what is your potential? I would like to close with those powerful words. That's okay if he roams around up here. I would like to share those, again, powerful words from Barack Obama as he was senator, a dreamer. I think Barack Obama, Michelle, and their children, I think they're star children who have lived into their full potential, who dared to dream that someday there'd be a black man in the White House. And he said these words, "It's only when you hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself that you realize your true potential and discover the role you'll play in writing the next great chapter." And I would fill in a different verbiage there. I'd say the next great chapter in God's story. I would suggest, my friends, as Pastor Susan already did, she kind of took part of my message, that you hitch your wagon to the divine. You hitch your wagon to the divine, and holy cow, it's going to be quite the ride of your life. Realize your potential, because God is already hitched to you. Now it's just a matter of acknowledging that we are hitched to God. Yes, we are here, and Isaiah says, "Prepare ye the way of the Lord." Prepare the way of the Lord. Pave the way, make the path straight. Level the mountains, raise up the valleys. That is active waiting, being co-creators with God. Let's prepare the way for God. That's what Advent is about. That's what this community is about. As we gather here, we prepare the way for God with each other, through each other, as we sing, as we share, as we pray, as we study. And there are going to be some obstacles in the desert, are there not? Obstacles in our attempts to live into our full potential as star children. I've run into obstacles, you have too. There were obstacles for Jesus. There were obstacles for Isaiah. There were obstacles for the children of Israel. After all, they wandered for, 40 days, 40 years in the desert. Obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. But the challenge is to keep on keeping on. Because evil is still out there. It has not yet been conquered. Injustice is still occurring, so we need to keep on. Human suffering and cruelty is all too frequent. But God is patiently at work through you, through me, and we keep on keeping on. Time to attach our wagons to something bigger than our fears, something bigger than the internet, something bigger than Fox or MSN or CNN or whatever news we're watching, but to hitch our wagons to God, who will empower us to do and to be what we have been called to be in the world. We are all meant to shine. Shine, shine, as this little child does, and as this little child is drawn to the lights, and drawn to the angels, right? And drawn to the figurines, bringing a gift. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within all of us. And what's your child's name again? Eli? Ari. That gift, that glory of God that has been placed in Ari. And who knows what potential Ari has? Who knows what potential we all have? It's not just in some of us, my friends. It's in all of us. Allow God to manifest God's self in you. You are star children. Amen.